So essentially, in its simplest form, a self-managed super fund is just a tax structure. That's all it is. Now, because of the tax benefits, it's one of the greatest structures to build your wealth in Australia. So let's go through the 7 reasons why people will set up a self-managed super fund. Now,
Jason, the wonderful Jason Bibby, is founded SMSF Financial, and you can read his one clear mission. And what's lovely is having a financial planner who can give his expert advice on the call, because I don't give financial advice. I only talk about lending, and it's great to have the other side of the equation.
So essentially, in its simplest form, a self-managed super fund is just a tax structure. That's all it is. Now, because of the tax benefits, it's one of the greatest structures to build your wealth in Australia. And it's one of the greatest structures if you're earning and you're in a higher tax bracket. You can maximize your contributions to bring your taxable income down. And it's like an instant return of anywhere from 30% all the way up to 60% more funds instantly, just by going from potentially a 47% tax bracket and going all the way down to a 15% tax bracket. Now, there's one major tax benefit by having a self-managed super fund, and it's got to do with when you're able to retire. So does anybody know what the tax rate is once you go into retirement phase in a self-managed super fund? So yes, once you get into retirement phase, the capital gains tax is 0, and also the income tax is 0, and it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you. So let's go through it. Much like Louise, I'm authorized to provide financial advice. So this is just going to be a general advice disclaimer, and we're just going to be giving examples, and everything here is just going to be general advice and not personal advice. Okay. So let's go through the 7 reasons why people will set up a self-managed super fund. Now, everyone that's on the line is really interested in buying a property. So that is one of the biggest reasons of setting up a self-managed super fund. Number 1 is investment choice. Now, this could be property, it could be crypto, it could be managed funds, but when you're in an industry fund, it's very narrow, the scope of what you can do. Once you have a self-managed super fund, the blinkers come off and you've got a lot more investment choice. And this is the only way you're able to buy direct property and use a limited recourse loan or use borrowings in order to do it. The other one, second reason, is complete control. And now this is when you have a self-managed super fund, the bank account is in your name, the property is in the name of the companies that you own, and ultimately you have complete control. At the moment, in an industry super fund, if they have an internal change and they want to put infrastructure as part of a bond program, all of that will happen in the background and you won't really have any control or knowledge of what's going on. So that's a big one. Now, potential cost savings can be massive. Once you get over around $400,000, $500,000 in your super, or you're controlling a property of $8, $9, $1 million, when you're in a industry super fund, the fees are charged as a percentage. And the percentage fees on average are around 0.7 through to about 1% of the fund balance. So if you've got a smaller balance and you've got 50 grand, then the fees are going to be quite low. But if you get up and you've got 800,000, then the fees are going to be quite substantial. So with a self-managed super fund, it's a fixed fee, and it's regardless of how many members you have. You can have a maximum of 6, and it can be more cost beneficial doing it that way. A big one is tax planning and benefits. On the tax planning side, there's a lot more freedom and flexibility you've got with a self-managed super fund as opposed to an industry super fund. There's investment advantages, and as I said, access to a lot more investment options. It's a lot easier to do estate planning with a self-managed super fund. In the investments that you buy, there's sort of built-in asset protection, and we can also set up a binding death nomination, which You can nominate who's going to get the benefits of your self-managed super fund and where it's all going to go. And that all comes before the estate plan. So it avoids issues and arguments and things like that. And then the last one is the pooling of assets. So as I said, you can have up to 6 members. And there's a few other benefits that having a self-managed super fund will assist with. It's with transparency and visibility. At the moment, you don't really know what the fees are. Most fund managers take a 20% performance fee if they outperform the market. And all of that happens in the background and it's not reflected in the unit price increase. When you've got a self-managed super fund, you see absolutely everything and it's a lot more transparent. You've got a lot more control over the investment timings than you do with an industry super fund. And you can also put some more comprehensive insurance in place. Now, I'm going to go through the 3 reasons not to set up a self-managed super fund. A self-managed super fund is not for everyone. So I want to be really clear about that. And so the number 1 reason not to set up a self-managed super fund, if you've got a low balance, right? I won't set up a self-managed super fund for anyone that's got under $200,000. And if you're looking to buy a property, you really need to have at least $250,000 in order to be able to get a $600,000 or a $700,000 loan. There is a time commitment. And although when you use an administration company like myself, we do a lot of the heavy lifting, we make it as seamless as possible for our clients. However, there is more time that needs to be put into a self-managed super fund than an industry super fund that sort of ticks along in the background. And now you can do set and forget investments, but if you own a property, there's going to be things that come up. Just like any normal property, you're still going to have communications with your property manager. You still need to provide all of the statements at the end of the financial year. So there's a little bit more time involved. Now, this is a big one for me. Trustee risk of mismanaging or misappropriating funds. If you are susceptible to, how can I say this politely? If you can't trust yourself, or if you've got a gambling problem, do not set up a self-managed super fund. I've been doing this for 17 years and there's not a lot that I haven't seen. And I've been involved in winding up a number of self-managed super funds, basically because clients couldn't trust themselves. A self-managed super fund, think of it like this. You've got you as an individual, you've got your partner, potentially Chinese walls, then you've got your self-managed super fund. That self-managed super fund is its own entity, and think of it like a bubble. We want to grow the assets in the bubble, but if you take money out of this and put it into your own name, you'll burst that bubble and you'll potentially be liable for up to 45% of the value of your super. And if it's completely fraudulent what you're doing, then there's potential jail time, right? So if you can't trust yourself, then a self-managed super fund isn't for you. Because when we set it up, there's a lot of checks and balances that go in place. We use a Macquarie bank account. Every time you do a transfer, you've got to itemize what it's being used for. But physically, you can transfer money anywhere in the world, and there is the chance of things going wrong. Okay, so we all clear on that?